in the quiet little village of Meadowbrook, where thatched roofs kissed the sky and cobblestone paths wound through fields of wildflowers, lived a black cat named Whiskers. Now, Whiskers wasn't just any cat. He was as black as a moonless night, with eyes the color of brilliant emeralds, shimmering with an intelligence that seemed to understand the very heart of the world. His favorite spot in the whole village was right by the grand stone fireplace in Mrs. Gable's cottage. Tonight the fire crackled and danced, casting long playful shadows across the room. The scent of pine and old books filled the air. Whiskers was curled up on the plush, worn rug, his tail giving a gentle thump-thump of contentment. Mrs. Gable, with her silver hair pinned up in a loose bun and her glasses perched on the end of her nose, settled into her favorite rocking chair. The chair creaked a familiar, comforting rhythm as she rocked back and forth, her knitting needles resting in her lap. She looked down at Whiskers, whose green eyes were fixed on her, full of expectation. A soft smile touched her lips. "Ah, my dear Whiskers," she said, her voice as warm and comforting as the fire itself. "You're waiting for a story, aren't you? Well, you've been a very good companion today. I think a story is exactly what this evening calls for." Whiskers blinked slowly. A silent agreement. Mrs. Gable leaned back, her gaze drifting towards the mesmerizing flames. The firelight danced in her eyes, making them sparkle with memories and tales of old. She cleared her throat gently, the sound soft in the quiet room. "All right then," she began, her voice taking on a timeless, melodic quality. "Let's see, yes, a classic. Once upon a time, in a cozy little cottage on the edge of a great, dark wood, there lived a sweet little girl who was loved by everyone who knew her, but most of all by her grandmother. Her grandmother thought the world of her and had once made her beautiful little riding cape of red velvet. It suited the girl so well that she would wear it everywhere, and so everyone in the village simply called her Little Red Riding Hood. Whiskers purred, a low, rumbling sound that vibrated through the floorboards. He settled in, knowing the journey had just begun. One sunny morning, Mrs. Gable continued, her hands gesturing gracefully as she wove the tale. Little Red Riding Hood's mother called to her. "My dear," she said, holding up a basket filled with fresh bread, a pat of butter, and a small bottle of sweet wine. "Your grandmother is not feeling well. Please take this basket to her. It will do her some good. But be careful on your journey. Stay on the path, don't dawdle in the woods, and be polite to everyone you meet." "Of course, Mother," said Little Red Riding Hood with a cheerful smile. She promised to be very careful. She kissed her mother goodbye, took the basket, and set off. The grandmother's house wasn't too far away, just a half-hour's walk through the forest. As Little Red Riding Hood entered the woods, the sun filtered through the tall trees, dappling the path with golden light. Birds sang sweetly from the branches, and she felt as happy as could be. But she had not gone far when she came across a wolf. Now, Little Red Riding Hood had never met a wolf before and didn't know what a cunning creature he could be, so she wasn't the least bit afraid. "Good day, Little Red Riding Hood," said the wolf, his voice smooth as honey. "Good day to you, wolf," she replied politely. "Where are you off to so early this morning?" he asked, trotting alongside her. "I'm going to see my grandmother," she explained. "She's feeling a bit under the weather, and I'm bringing her some cake and wine to help her feel strong again." "And where does your grandmother live?" the wolf asked, his ears twitching with interest. "Oh, just a little further into the forest," said the innocent girl. "Her cottage stands under the 3 large oak trees. You can't miss it." Mrs. Gable paused, her eyes twinkling. The wolf thought to himself, what a tender young creature. What a fine, plump morsel she would be. She'll be even tastier than the old woman. I must be clever so I can catch them both. So he walked beside Little Red Riding Hood for a short while, and then he said, "Little Red Riding Hood, just look at the beautiful flowers that are blooming all around you. Why don't you listen to how sweetly the little birds are singing? You walk along as if you're hurrying to school, but it's so lovely here in the woods." Little Red Riding Hood looked up, and she saw the sunbeams dancing through the trees and the ground covered with the most beautiful wildflowers. She thought grandmother would be so pleased if I brought her a fresh bouquet, and so, forgetting her mother's warning, she skipped off the path and into the woods to pick flowers. For every flower she picked, she saw an even prettier one just a little further away, and so she went deeper and deeper into the forest. Meanwhile, Mrs. Gable's voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper. The wolf ran straight to the grandmother's house and knocked on the door. "Who's there?" called the grandmother from her bed. "It's Little Red Riding Hood," the wolf replied, pitching his voice high to sound like the little girl. "I've brought you cake and wine. Please open the door." "Just lift the latch," the grandmother called out. "I'm too weak to get up." The wolf lifted the latch, the door sprang open, and without saying a single word, he went straight to the grandmother's bed and, well, he gobbled her all up. Whiskers' ears flattened for a moment, his green eyes wide. The fire crackled, as if in suspense. Then Mrs. Gable went on. The wolf put on her nightgown, slipped her cap onto his head, drew the bed curtains, and lay down to wait. It wasn't long before Little Red Riding Hood arrived. She had picked so many flowers that she could no longer carry them all. She was surprised to find the cottage door standing wide open. As she walked into the room, everything felt so strange that she thought, "Oh dear, how unsettling I feel today, and I'm usually so happy to be at grandmother's." She called out, "Good morning." But there was no answer. She went to the bed and drew back the curtains. There lay her grandmother, with her cap pulled far over her face, looking very peculiar. "Oh, grandmother," she said, "what big ears you have." "All the better to hear you with, my dear," replied the wolf. "And grandmother, what big eyes you have." "All the better to see you with, my dear grandmother. What big hands you have." "All the better to hug you with, my dear." "But grandmother, what a terribly big mouth you have." "All the better to eat you with." Mrs. Gable boomed, making Whiskers jump just a tiny bit. And with that, the wolf leaped out of bed and swallowed poor Little Red Riding Hood whole. With his appetite finally satisfied, the wolf climbed back into bed, fell fast asleep, and began to snore very, very loudly. A woodsman was just passing by the house at that moment and thought to himself, "My, how the old woman is snoring. I had better see if anything is wrong." So he went inside, and there in the bed he found the wolf. "So it's you, you old sinner," he cried. "I've been looking for you for a long time." He was about to raise his axe when it occurred to him that the wolf might have swallowed the grandmother and that she could still be saved. So he didn't shoot, but took a pair of scissors and began to snip open the sleeping wolf's belly. After just a few snips, he saw the little red cape shining through. He snipped a little more, and out jumped Little Red Riding Hood, crying, "Oh, I was so frightened. It was so dark inside the wolf." And then out came the grandmother, alive as well, though she could hardly breathe. Little Red Riding Hood quickly fetched some large stones, and they filled the wolf's belly with them. When the wolf woke up, he wanted to run away, but the stones were so heavy that he collapsed at once and fell down dead. And then all three were happy. The woodsman took the wolf's pelt, the grandmother ate the cake and drank the wine and felt much better. And as for Little Red Riding Hood, she thought to herself, "As long as I live, I will never again stray from the path and run into the woods when my mother has forbidden it." Mrs. Gable smiled, her story complete. The fire had burned down 2 glowing embers, and the cottage was filled with a peaceful warmth. Whiskers stretched, arching his back, and then padded over to Mrs. Gable, rubbing against her legs with a contented purr. He jumped onto her lap, curled into a ball, and closed his emerald eyes, the tale of Little Red Riding Hood echoing in his dreams. Thank you so much for joining us for this cozy story time. I hope you enjoyed it as much as Whiskers and I did. If you'd like more tales from Meadowbrook, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. We'll see you next time. Sweet dreams.